Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of The Sweet Ever After. This wonderful episode we've entitled Fight Club. Now, I know you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club, but this is actually the Fight Club we should be talking about as how we have healthy fights, healthy disagreements in our relationships, in our marriages primarily. And we are excited to be joined by some special guests today. We have Chris and Wendy Kellner, who are actually our marriage ministry leaders here at Risen Nation. So guys, thank you so much for making the time.
For having us.
Yes. I know you guys got a lot of wisdom to share, and you have been, how long actually? How long have you guys been married?
30 years.
30 years.
Awesome.
I'm about to turn 36. Just give you a little.
Matt. Thanks.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
He's about to fight you.
I know, right?
It's a fight. Well, it's Fight Club.
Fight
So,
Club.
those guys, well, that's amazing. 30 years of marriage, and all of them have been incredible, right? Like, everything was perfect, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From the honeymoon on?
From the honeymoon on, just been a dream. Well, that's good. But seriously, this is going to be great. A lot of wisdom I know you guys have to share. So, we are talking about the topic of having healthy disagreements in marriage, and that we need to talk about this. But right off the bat, I'm just going to throw this out there and anybody jump in. But what are ways that we can have, when we say healthy fights, what do we mean by that? Healthy disagreements. Talk about that. What is healthy fighting? What does it look like for you guys? I mean,
Well, for us is you got to decide on is it worth winning, because there's always going to be a loser, things like that. But when you're married, it has to be a win-win situation.
oh yeah.
I think
Yes.
once we decided that we both have to come out in a sense of winners
Yeah.
together, because
Yeah.
we're in as one. So
Yeah.
so we kind of go, there's nobody going to lose.
Yeah.
And I think once we figured that out, that we have to come to a winning situation.
Yeah.
Because we can't walk away from one of us being a loser, because
Yeah.
there is no
And we all
there's no
lose.
separation.
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
it's a
exactly.
one. We're in it.
Yeah.
And we're one together. So
Yeah.
once we figured that one out, that made fighting so much easier.
Oh.
It did. And then I think a little bit later when we learned that whether you agree or not, to make sure that you're validating your spouse's feelings because of your perspective. It's all about perspective, and how you feel may not be
Yeah.
how the other one feels. And so once we literally learned how to validate each other,
Yeah.
that made a big difference as well, because then he could respect my feelings and I could respect his, and it wasn't,
Yeah.
it wasn't somebody had to win. It was just, you know what, I validate that you feel that way.
Yeah.
Now we can solve the conflict.
Yeah. And I've noticed, Chris, with the women folk especially, they like that validating the feelings. I think once you get that down,
Oh,
you
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
babe. Go ahead.
We have
Go
a
ahead.
lot of feelings,
Yeah.
and we
Yes.
need you to acknowledge that we have a lot of feelings. You might not understand those feelings, but you need to acknowledge
Yes.
that there's a lot
Yes.
of them.
That's true.
Okay.
There are times that I do not understand the feelings. But yes, I think we saw, I mean, you can speak to this, the improvement that we had in our disagreements when I really did come to that place of understanding that I do validate your feelings, and I do recognize that, hey, you are feeling this way, and
And you stop deflecting.
Yeah, yes, I was a bad deflector. That's what,
Yeah.
Sydney taught me in our marriage.
taught me.
She taught me this. No, but it's true. I would deflect things or wanted to bring up things that she was doing
Yeah.
instead of accepting and owning, what I was doing wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys never struggled with anything like that,
Right.
right?
I mean, I don't think you really weren't a deflector over the years. I just a little stern.
just
Just a
no.
little stern.
No.
And,
Just Chris said
I
no.
think my favorite line that Chris would say before, we learned everything that we learned was when he would say, well, you let yourself feel that way and you've let yourself get mad and he wouldn't take any responsibility.
I guess that's kind of
I mean,
deflecting.
it was
just worded differently.
Yeah.
worded differently. It was all on me, but I mean, just really sort of ignoring. We would ignore each other. I think we would ignore more than deflect.
I see. So I would say that when we're talking about healthy arguments, what you just said, when we start ignoring each other, right? We're not facing the issues. So just because maybe you're not fighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, and I've had a lot of this is like we do couples counseling and stuff like that, and I know you guys have done a lot of that pre-marriage counseling, counseling within while people are married, counseling out of a dumpster fire that has been
Correct.
started. So all of that you've had a lot of experience with. So I'm sure you would agree with this, but I think I've found that when you go quiet, that doesn't necessarily mean that the marriage is good. It's just somebody's either getting steamrolled or somebody has stopped caring.
Yeah.
If there's people that are saying, "Oh, well, we never argue," I mean, that's
Yeah.
also an indicator.
Lie,
Like, hey,
lie.
I don't. That's either you're
Liar.
lying or that's a problem. 'Cause
Yes.
You have to have like passion. Like if you're passionate about things, you're gonna have conflict, but you have to learn to have healthy conflict.
Yeah.
Healthy conflict.
So I call that tripping over the rug,
Yeah.
because the rugs will get lumps and humps. So every
Yeah.
time you start to walk, if you don't pick up your feet, you're going to trip and fall, because all you constantly do is sweep everything.
everything.
Because you sweep everything under the
Uh,
rug.
so
So next
don't-
thing you know, you can't even walk on it. So
Yeah, because
because there's we'll come back to this. We'll figure this one out.
yeah.
And
I
what
don't
men
like-
like to do a lot of times is never come back to that situation.
Yeah, let's just ignore it.
I was about to
Just
say,
burn
I
the house
don't
down.
like the ignore. Yeah, I don't like the ignore and just be quiet. Everything's fine. We're all
Yeah.
fine, because that leads to isolation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And once isolation hits, it's so hard to come back from that.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and also it starts to pile up over time if you continue to sweep it up under the rug, like, or
yeah.
just shove it and like forget about it. Like you think like, oh, we've moved on, but you haven't. It's still there, and you're just stacking stuff on top of it,
Mhm.
and then it's just
Yeah.
We used to do the
Explodes.
we're going to pray about it, give it to God, and we just won't talk about it.
Ever. We're
I
not
mean,
gonna
we
resolve the
thought we were
conflict.
doing
We're
really
just saying
good. We
thought
did
were doing
this, and
really
it's
good.
like that doesn't resolve it.
I've seen so much of that. I mean, as you can imagine, especially in ministry, is like just blaming God, or
Oh.
God is the well. I just didn't feel that this was something that we needed to talk about, or the Lord didn't lead me to, and it's like, no, that's not a thing. Just
Yeah.
so I can see that. So we're talking about this in healthy disagreements, right? What I would say in an argument, something that Cindy and I did. I'd like to say early on, but the first 2 years we just tried to kill each other. So I will say though, as we're talking about, instead of going silent, there was definitely not silence. It was
Right.
a passionate. I think the passion was palpable
Yeah.
in our fighting.
I think that's a seasonal thing with couples. It tends to be, marriage, honeymoon, the fight club.
Yeah.
We went into like quickly. We were like dating, married, all in like a week, and then
Yeah, we got
the
married
next
quick.
day.
Yeah. I hadn't really gotten to know all of
But
the
also,
versions of Sydney.
I had a lot of unresolved trauma and baggage that I brought into our marriage, so I really wanted.
Which is a whole episode in
Yes.
itself, because that's a lot. But yeah.
But I was
Wow.
really wanting to test him and like
Yep.
see how far I could push him to see how he would respond, and so I tested him a lot.
So one of the things that we figured out is, and I guess the question I'm going to throw out to you is like, and this is for everybody, how far is too far in an argument? What are some indicators to look for that, hey, we're not really in having a healthy disagreement or a healthy discussion? And I wouldn't even say volume, because sometimes people, they both communicate in loud ways, and it's not necessarily that that's bad. It's just,
Right.
now in other ways, I don't like to be screaming. And so like once it gets to a certain volume, I start to be like, okay, I'm going to you need to step back, or I need to step back, because once I start screaming, it's not good. It's not good for anybody. And so I think one of the things we decided as our words were things that we've taken out of our vocabulary is always and never. You always do this, or you never do that, which we just at face value is not true.
Yeah,
Correct. I mean, just because you frequently do something or whatever, like doesn't mean that you always do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's
That's
not
really good.
accurate.
That's probably one of the first things that we start off with when we're talking with couples is just that. Nobody always or never does anything. So
Yeah.
we try to train them in that
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. It's not true.
And yes, tone of voice is very important. Deciding on those levels of tone of voice when it begins to get scary
Yeah.
or psycho or chaotic. Yeah, that's definitely time out and walk away.
Yeah.
You have to part ways, because the next level is throwing things, breaking things, and then can lead to physical,
Yeah.
throwing of hands.
Yeah.
And
We're throwing hands. Now.
that's not good.
Just trying to pray, lay in
and
hands.
then the leaving,
Yeah.
the packing and the leaving, the huffing out, or that's not safe for
Yeah.
one. And then I think the last one we do not agree with is throwing out the D word, well, maybe we weren't supposed to be married. Maybe we should just divorce then, or I
threaten
can
the
leave you,
relationship.
yeah,
Yeah.
threatening it.
Or or leaving and just coming back the next day.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to stay the night.
Oh, that.
There's-
Oh,
I'm just
yeah.
not going to stay the night.
That-
I'm going to go
that
stay
happens
at
too.
so and so's
Yeah.
house, and we're like,
That's not good.
That's
Yeah.
not good.
No,
you
so
know.
yeah, you have to find that limit definitely to squash
Yeah.
wherever that limit is for the timeout to part ways and
Yeah.
come back to it. Is,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
well, a lot of things I think, and that's in the beginning, of not knowing how to communicate and,
Yeah.
and how we saw people resolve things.
Yeah.
I think, but as we moved on, I think when in the male or leader role, it's kind of like we kind of have to be the one doing the temperature and
Yeah.
and setting it, and so
Yeah.
it's going to follow what we do,
Yeah.
and so our insecurities can come out.
Yeah.
If we're insecure about a topic or a subject that we're going to be talking about, sometimes that can come out with
Yeah.
with being negative and doing other things. So I think it's to be honest. Like we talk now, she goes, I know you may be uncomfortable talking about this,
Yeah.
and since we've been married a long time, she's right.
Yeah. She knows.
So and I know that. So to admit that, this isn't quite the topic that I'm,
Yeah.
because
I'm excited to talk about
just certain things that she
Yeah.
knows, and I was like, I know. So what can we do that we can get through this topic or get through this
Yeah, 'cause
to where
we-
it's not
We
uncomfortable?
have to talk about it.
And it goes both ways. Where
Yeah.
I could have conversations with her and go,
I was
you
about
need
to
to be able to
say,
set that
Yeah.
when you
just
talk.
and finally, to add to what you were saying is that we reach that for you and your boundaries, because that's what they are, is healthy boundaries
Yeah.
in marriage.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that a lot of couples go into it thinking, oh, there are no boundaries. You're my spouse, and
Yeah.
I can do and say whatever I want to because you're mine.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
No.
And I was we're going to stay up until this is resolved.
Yeah.
Until
Yeah.
I win or we agree.
Until I
to
win.
agree.
Until you admit defeat.
Until we agree to you to agree to me.
Yeah.
Then we're going to win. And man, once I learned that it's okay, I can not talk to him and I can go to bed and I can sleep just fine and pray and give it till we can come back
Yeah.
to this topic.
So it becomes something that's, actually fruitful in the sense
Correct.
of like, it has actually leads somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I think we've had plenty of those experiences.
Yeah, where
of,
it's also it's no longer beneficial to continue.
it's not edifying.
It's like,
that's for
hey,
sure.
That's for
we
sure.
Need to,
Not
we
being
need to
edified.
have a moment. I need to go have a snack, and then we can
Yes.
come back and have a healthy.
And that's usually
dispute.
something I lead into is
Yeah.
ask, like, have you eaten? Do you need
Yes.
it? Like,
Do you need some
do you need a
juice?
snack?
And that's a great peace offering too.
Like,
For
her
ladies.
sometimes with me is occasionally is being like, have you been praying enough? Like, like why are you this way right now? Yeah. You,
Been with Jesus today.
you haven't been in your
need to
prayer room.
go. You need to go.
Go have some time. Something you brought up that I thought was really good, Chris, was talking about insecurities being exposed in fights, and that is so true. That's something I found, and something I found helpful for me, and as maybe as men listening to this, something that might help you is identifying when you do see an insecurity in your wife to then go the opposite to really help her build that up. So it's not like you're calling it out as like, well, you just need to get over this. It's you recognize it and then you start bringing the opposite spirit, if you will. Like, if really she gets nervous or she's insecure, like maybe when I'm around other women or something, like whatever it may be, even though if I'm not doing anything that's questionable, obviously, but still she shows some insecurity there. It's okay, well, I'm going to follow this up with one, reinforcing to her how committed I am to her, but also how beautiful she is, how amazing she is, how she feels every need that I have, really going there so that insecurity is no longer
Correct.
an insecurity.
Instead of responding with "you're just being insecure."
Oh yeah,
because
you're
that-
just,
that
or you're
doesn't
crazy.
Fix anything.
That doesn't help.
Makes it worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
women love when you just say you're crazy. I've heard that and calm down.
It's a quick way to get throat chopped.
Are really good ones to throw out there.
And I would throw something like, "What are you worried about? You won.
You
You
look
won.
at what you
won.
Yes.
No, you
Yes.
won."
I'm reminded often of my trophy.
Trophy husband.
My
Yeah,
trophy
you
husband.
Look at all this that
I
you've
mean,
gained.
all of this.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yes.
You got to marry all of this, and one thing gets brought up is like, well, all of this wasn't present when we got married, but that's cool.
Correct. Right.
It's fine.
Maybe we should just fight in our trophy
Yeah.
t-shirts.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about this a little bit, the danger of silence, but I think, our first, like I said, our first 2 years really, even creeping into some of the third, I think we kind of found a better groove by the third year, but there was a lot of fighting. And it was, which Sydney, I mean, I'm going to throw this out. You
It's fine.
tell me if it's true or not. I would say Sydney did like to fight. It was,
Yes.
it was a way that she actually got attention. And obviously not the healthiest way to get attention, but when she was feeling neglected, it would just let's stir up a fight.
Yeah. Well, also, I didn't know how to have healthy discussions, and I didn't know how to talk about my issues. It just came out in physical ways, and like
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to talk about things.
Yeah. I've been punched a couple times, I think. Yeah.
I think that's
Slightly.
common. I had
what-
some trauma,
That's
you know, like you were saying, and it did. I guess, like you said, the feeling neglected. It wasn't that he wasn't being loving or respectful or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just, I guess I felt like I needed an extra dose of affirmation
Yeah.
on the daily. And
Yes.
his take was, everything's fine. We're blessed. We're doing good. I'm here. You're like, what's the problem?
Yeah, I'm happy.
I'm like, there's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
no problem. I just am super insecure
Yeah, I
in
just-
all of these areas.
Well, I guess I've discovered that though with Sydney in general being so now 14, coming up 14 years of marriage, is to daily tell her that I love her. To daily, the first thing I do when I get home is come and see her, say, hey, I'm home. Those kind of things. And I notice how much life that gives her.
Yes.
But biblically we know that men are commanded to love their wives and women are commanded to respect their husbands, and we know that those are things that we
Go
need,
hand in hand.
that we each need. And so I think we talk about healthy fights, right? Let's talk a little bit about this, about breaking that cycle.
Yes.
Of choosing for us as men. Like I know there's times, and Chris, I'm sure there's times that you've had to choose to just love Wendy, right? Even though in the moment you were angry or in something you didn't maybe even understand, And I was what was
He's
that
like,
that country song that women were made to be loved, not made to be understood. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yes.
probably true. But in those moments with Sydney, instead of rearing up because I do feel disrespected, at some point one of us have to give, right? One of us have to give ground, and one of us have to be intentional and follow that command. And so there are times where I would just love Sydney. That would be my response, is to say, okay, I'm going to pour more love on her, right? Instead of getting so defensive that I was disrespected then, but then hopefully breaking that cycle, the respect will return, and I won't feel that way, and so vice versa, that kind
Right.
of stuff. So even speak to that. Do you guys have any instances where you've seen that with other couples? You've seen that with yourselves, is like where you've just had to decide to
Correct.
do the opposite, not give into your flesh or
Not
what
give into your flesh.
or
That's
your
the
ego.
number one thing.
I mean, for me, it took it. One of the things that to this very day, it's just be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's just like, everything just be not kindness.
Yeah.
Kindness and all the thing. It's like, because it's so easy to not be kind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you've had a bad day,
and so
especially.
and so when you're not, things, and again, the things escalate. So when you've lived it and you've seen it and you know what does it.
Yeah.
So it's, then again, it's always a relationship of, as we grow in Christ,
Yeah.
so many of those things just
Yeah.
melt away.
Yeah.
Your desire to say the wrong thing is just gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
and,
don't want to hurt. Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to hurt them.
and so what can I, and what am I doing in this situation? Am I helping or am I hurting it? So
Yeah.
what are we going to do? So
Right.
just because you got hurt, does that mean I got to come back and go, I can hurt you too?
Yeah.
Because that goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I would say, it's not even a male-female thing. Everyone knows, when you're together,
Yeah.
you know what can hurt the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, in men's situation,
Hmm.
a woman can just do a little, we say a little thump, and then all of a sudden the man comes back with this hammer of hurt.
Yeah. That he's been holding and storing.
And it's just
Storing
like,
away.
and then they're just getting smacked with this wave
Yeah.
like, I didn't see that coming.
Oh wow. Yeah. Oh.
That's how you
There's
feel.
that.
That's how you
There's-
feel.
Yeah.
So, and again, the conversations, I think, communicating in the morning, communicating when you're eating, even throughout the day, I think
Yeah.
you're just setting the tone for things that
Yeah.
you can easily come to the table
Yeah.
and have communication in situations where it's easier to. It's never something that's so heavy.
Yeah.
And
That was one of the first conversations we had to have when we realized we had problem.
We realized, I'm a problem.
We
You're a
realized
problem.
I think we're both a problem,
We're all
and we're not doing this right.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Yeah.
was recognizing each other's strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
and to not be a porcupine. Like when they said that really spoke to me, because I thought, wow, I am a porcupine. Like, how is he supposed to? I'm a whole porcupine. How is he supposed to? How is he supposed to do this? And then he was this like a bear, and so when we got vulnerable
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
to call time out and say what is really the core issue here,
Yeah.
and lay it on the table and let someone walk us through that.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to let someone into that space, that trusted space, and be vulnerable,
Yeah.
let's get to the root of the problem of all the conflict so that we can go forward from
Yeah.
there.
Because, I mean, anger is a secondary emotion. So it's like you have to find out what is causing
What
the
caused-
anger.
Yeah. Why are you
like the
so mad?
insecure-
Yeah.
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 You know,
We don't ask
yeah.
that, but
No,
you know,
I ask. It
fine.
helps. Just say, why are you so mad?
Why are you being such a jerk?
so mean?
It's the best
Well,
one.
I think one of the better things that we've learned too was, you know, if one person is loving the other, but the other person isn't receiving the love,
Yeah.
that's it's sometimes it's one sided, and
Yeah.
it's like it's
Yeah.
you're unlovable. Well, you know, some people's not receiving it,
Yeah.
and there's something in there why they're not receiving it. It's not that they're not being loved. Is it that, you know, she can love me and love me and love me, and I could just not receive it, and therefore
Yeah.
I'm not. If I'm not receiving it,
I'm not being loved
I'm not.
because I'm not
I'm not going to come give it back out. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, makes
um,
sense.
we have to sometimes look inside and go, are we actually receiving their type of love
Yeah.
that they're giving to us?
Yeah.
That's
Which
a
goes
really
on to
good point.
the
I
love
spent
languages
several
and all
years
those
telling
things.
him, no, you don't. All those insecurities.
Yeah.
He would say, you know, I love you. I don't believe it. You say it, but do I really believe it? Do I really feel
Yeah.
it? You're beautiful. No, I'm not. Stop saying that.
Yeah.
And that led to him stop saying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Which
then,
then just compounded on
which
everything.
then compounded on everything else.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's a little mind-blowing point, there, Chris. That was good. I like this. I'm learning a lot. This is so good. It's good stuff.
It's called experience. That's all it is.
So I think, again, I think when we can honestly look at things, and this is why I think as believers, again, I don't know how people make it without Jesus. And
Exactly.
like, because of when we got married, you know, she as it was mentioned, she brought in a lot of hurt, a lot of past trauma into our relationship. And had I not been as secure in Christ as I was, which again, I was only 22,
Yeah.
but like I had a great relationship with Jesus. And so I was committed. I was, you know, in the Word daily. I was in my prayer closet daily, you know,
Wow.
seeking the Lord. And so there was a lot of times where I felt the urge to respond in a certain way, and the Holy Spirit was the one that'd be like, no.
Yeah.
And I remember one in particular is a story we were talking about fights. Is I remember one of our very first bad fights that I got really mad. And I didn't even think about this, but, you know, I'm a lot bigger than her. I started yelling and screaming, and I can get really loud. You know, I mean, I for a living, I talk. I mean, that's pretty much what I do. So, like, I can yell, I can get very loud, and all this kind of stuff. And so I remember yelling and screaming about something. I don't remember what it was, but I remember being upset, and I felt like I was in the right. And so then I started yelling and screaming, and she just looked defeated. And I remember she went in the room and just started crying. I was like, oh, there she goes again, trying to manipulate me by crying, right? And so
yes.
that was and I remember I'm so in my, like, you know, and I'll go out.
I think you even said, "Are you gonna go cry about
Oh, yeah, I
it?"
said,
That
yeah,
was
are you
the
going to
line.
cry about it?
Yeah.
That's, I remember it was bad.
And
It
we're
was-
still sitting
Wanted
here
to throw
today.
that
It was bad. It was probably 6 months old.
Yeah.
It was so, and I was actually about to leave. Like, I was just going to leave. I didn't know where I was going, but I was like, I am not staying here. Not like you guys said that
Yeah.
what we talked about. It's not a good idea, right? I was like, I'm going to leave. So I get in my car, and I'm so just, and I remember I turned the car on, and the Holy Spirit was so clear. It was like he was sitting right next to me in the seat. He's like, where are you going? And I was like, well, she needs to blah, blah, blah. And she needs, and I remember even thinking that, like saying that, like I start talking to God and I start saying, this woman you gave me, right? Like,
This woman you gave
I have,
me, yeah.
right? You need to change her. She's this, she's that. And he was so clear. And honestly, I've had moments like this where it was like the fear of the Lord gripped me, but this was one of the most stern responses I feel like I've ever gotten from the Lord. And he was like, no, you need to change. And he was like, little boy, get back up there, be a man. And it was like, I remember I started crying. I'm like, you know, and it was like, and basically showed me, he was like, the daughter, right, my daughter that I trusted you with, this is how you're going to treat her.
Ooh.
And I was like, and so, and I went back upstairs and I apologized. I said, hey, I had no right to talk to you that way. I'm sorry. You know, and we talked through it. And she, of course, you know, and I had to do that. You know, you hurt my heart. That's what you hurt my heart. And so, but, you know, I would eventually, you know, when you win, like when you get to the point where it's like, she could finally, like, okay. It's like, all right, we're good. But we've made it. Yeah. But from that point, and then I think the other time that really kind of, it made me aware of how I was talking, that I really started being like, I have to stop this. It was actually when we started fostering our son Michael, which was it's a whole other thing to bring into your marriage. So really pushed us to the edge. And I remember at one point I realized I needed to refocus and really get a hold of my like what I was saying and how I was saying it, because we had gotten in a fight about him and about what we were dealing with, and at that point she was like, I'm done, I'm tired of doing this, and I was like, we can't give up, and like so we're
Right.
And I'm like, well, I'm out.
and so and I had been so overwhelmed with everything, and so my anger at that point was really starting to get out of control, and I'm not an angry person anymore. The Lord really delivered
But I
me
could
from
really push your buttons.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
could.
So anyway.
In your defense, I was a psychopath. Okay.
Well, that was early. This was totally fair because of
Yes.
everything you had been through and what was happening to you, particularly when we were fostering. But I remember the doorbell caught us, the doorbell camera, and so as I was what I was saying, and I remember, and I wasn't cursing, I wasn't saying anything, but just the tone and the aggressiveness, right, like that I heard myself saying and coming back to, I was just like, no, I don't. Oh my gosh. Like, that's so wrong, you know? And it was funny because I got a notification on my phone, oh, your doorbell has a visitor. And it was us.
It would never go off for anything else.
Yeah,
So
but it
it's
was like,
probably-
and it was so the Lord. It
Yes.
was like, listen to yourself, dummy. Like,
Yeah.
quit it.
Let me pause you right
you know,
there.
and same thing, came in and I said, babe, I'm so sorry, you know. And so that kind of leads, kind of thing, I think, when we talk about this of ultimately we have to reconcile, right? And I think, Chris, as men, I honestly think this, when we talk about being the head of the household, these are things that guys don't want to talk about and or accept, when we always want to be like, well, I'm the head of the house. But to be the head of the house means that your first goal is to make sure you're reconciled to God, that you and your family are reconciled to God, and you're reconciled to one another. And so our job, I believe it does rest with the man, is to make sure that we make it right. Even if we say, oh, it's not my fault.
Oh.
Like, in that sense, I'm like, well, I don't know if this is really my fault. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's your responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a big one, and when when I found that out, right,
When I was made aware.
When I got the email.
and when you bring it to the light of husbands and fathers who are new, or who just never were taught scripture and things like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
where
Didn't have a good example.
where it's like I'm responsible to a certain level of her relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
And if I'm part of the issue of why she can't go to, it's like
Yeah.
I mean, if she goes somewhere, it's like, why him? I mean, well, that's different. What are we going to do about him,
Lord, what?
Yeah, Lord, what?
But if I interfere with that relationship, her heart, if I'm the one that's just messing with all of that,
Yeah.
to where she can't be in a good position, I guess you
Yeah,
could say.
yeah.
Because if I'm causing a bad position to
Yeah.
where she's going to God always because of
Yeah.
her unhappiness or my craziness or just those things,
Yeah.
that's on me. And like you said, God's like, hey, what, hadn't heard from her in a while. It's because of you. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not.
what are you doing?
It's like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
It's because
You're not leading her
So
through.
I think that, and it's
Yeah.
we set so much of it.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's a good point, babe.
Good job.
Well, I don't know, you're asking about crazy fights, like the craziest fights. And we've had a lot, clearly over 30. It's like,
Had
that
to have.
that they're there and that they happened.
Yeah.
But if, like, Chris is leading the way he's supposed to do, and he's spending the time with the Lord and keeping short accounts with one another.
Yeah.
We learned that. So we
That's good,
keep
I like
short
that.
accounts. So when
Yeah.
you keep short accounts with your spouse and help hold each other accountable in a loving way,
Yeah.
I found that, because I read that question and then you just said it, and I thought, which crazy fight are we going to share? And as I'm thinking, well, we know that there were a lot, but because we've kept short accounts and forgiven so quickly,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. There's so many to remember, but you can't remember because
Yeah.
they're all forgiven.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, even if you did remember, it's hard to remember what it was even about. Like that's the big
That's what
thing.
I mean.
Yeah.
Even what it was about. I mean, we have
Most
some
of it's
really.
why'd you look at me like that? I didn't do anything.
I absolutely understand that because I'm like, why? Like, what's wrong with your face?
She gets,
Fix
she
your
gets
face.
okay.
Your face is
So
offending
here's
me.
something.
What
that
did you
happens.
say with your eyes just
Right,
now?
you said something.
Here's something.
Like,
Here's something
what'd
that
you
happens
mean?
that I still don't quite understand is like when I'm
in the mornings.
she's mad at me
Yes.
because of what happened in her dreams. That like
Oh, yes.
well you did
I
this.
think we moved past
and
that.
that's how you know
Until the next one.
Still has to be like, dream me is very like I'm very
Yeah,
sorry for what I
it's-
did.
Dream me.
Dream me.
Yes.
I apologize for dream me. But like in the morning, she wants to ask me these questions, and I don't have my glasses on. Without my glasses, I'm absolutely
makes
blind.
the worst
and so I make
faces.
horrible because I'm trying to squint and see,
like,
and she's like, "Why are you looking at me like
you
that?" I'm like,
looking at me
"I
like
can't
that?"
see you."
Can't even see you.
One time it was while I was getting dressed, and I was like, "Why are you looking at me
Do you
like
think
this?
I'm
Why-"
hideous?
I'm like, "Do you
Like
think
you're
I'm
in pain.
ugly? Why are you looking at me like this?"
Are you in pain?
It's just my face.
Yeah.
Well, how many times a day do I tell you to fix your face?
Yeah, she's right though. Being more approachable, Chris. That's something we've all been working on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had to bring that
Yes.
up. She reminded me.
Yes.
Be more approachable, Chris.
Yes. You know,
Just smile.
just smile.
Smile, Chris.
Well, before we wrap this up, I just first want to see, Sydney, do you have anything that you're wanting to share or ask or anything like that before we close this down?
I mean, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Anything you want to share? No? All right. Wendy, Chris, anything? Final words? For the podcast, of course.
Wow, we're really getting deep into it. I don't think so. We have a couple of mottos that we like to tell couples.
Throw them out. Let's go.
Yeah,
One of our mottos is snuggle naked.
Oh, yeah.
that's it.
Amen.
Because you can't, right?
Can't go wrong with that. That
Oh.
pleases the men usually.
Most of the time. And what do they say? What are the ones if you get into an argument and you feel like it's going to get, like, it's going to escalate? They always say just start.
Just start taking clothes
Just
off.
take your clothes off. Yeah, you can definitely
That's a good tip.
extinguish it there, and then
Because it's all in holy matrimony.
Yeah.
This is we're
Amen.
we're
Yeah.
we can do that.
Yeah.
we can do that.
We can do that.
We can strip down and fight,
That's it.
or fight.
Totally
club.
healthy. Fight Club, yeah.
And then just lower your expectations. Expectations or premeditated disappointments.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
That when we learned that was a really
Yeah.
good one. And
Yeah.
then someone always just told us just practice speaking life to each other,
Yeah.
about each other, around each other, and to others about
Yeah.
each other.
That's
So
good.
if you just
Yeah.
adopt those things, you
Yeah.
know,
That's great.
that'll be the first
Well,
step
or-
to
and-
less
Reminding me of
fights.
something.
Right.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things is the closer that you get to the oneness, right?
yeah.
It's when that person never stops being on your mind.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny sometimes whenever we kind of do things and go, hey, thinking of you. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I've been thinking of you. You're always a thought.
Yeah. Oh,
So
there's
you-
almost that.
Yeah. I mean,
There you go.
and it is
So-
because, almost everything leads back to your relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
And what's, the most important relationship here on earth is
Yeah.
her and I. And nothing can get in between that.
Yeah. That's
So-
awesome. There you go. All right, babe.
It just reminded me of whenever you would need me to do things instead of arguing with me about it. Like you would just be like, I love when you do this or do that. And you just like speak them out. And I would be like, but I don't actually do that. And then, so then I was like, oh, I should probably
That's
go
prophesying.
through this. So he would start, he'd be like, I love that you just are very encouraging. And like you say this and this. This is a long time ago. I'm much better now. But so you,
Well, that
like, you would
prophesying
do that,
you did.
yeah. Like you would do that, you would speak over it, and I'd be like, "Oh, I don't actually do that. I should
Yeah.
work on that."
That goes back to, again, this will be the final thought. When we talk about
10 final thoughts.
It's not 10 final thoughts, but when we talked about that, about being one, right, and realize that when you're literally attacking your spouse, you're attacking yourself.
Correct.
And you're just you're both losing.
Yes.
And so I think that was the thing, was instead of, I remember God showed me that, he's like, instead of dwelling on what her shortcomings are,
Right.
right, start speaking that life into her, right, and
Yes.
start of what you know that she is capable of doing,
That's
right,
good.
and also how can you help her do those things, like how can you be a better husband to where she can be a better wife.
Yeah.
And so when I started taking it from that angle, things got better quickly. I mean, that was a big thing for me. I remember when I started, instead of coming in and being like, you didn't like walk in and be like, oh, why is the kitchen a mess, right? Well, I'd walk in and I would start cleaning the kitchen. And then she'd see me and she'd come join me and we'd clean the kitchen together. And so like that was so much better than coming in and be like huffing and puffing and like I'm just looking at the kitchen and trying to send some kind of weird
it's so
mental
true.
signal.
He's resenting me right now because of this.
Yes,
or-
because I'm
there's-
always gonna fail and then it just keeps,
No.
Oh yeah.
Let's encourage it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
Chris would have to encourage me in that, in like patience, because
Yeah.
I'm a teacher and then in ministry, and I'm so patient with everyone else. And
But him.
he would remind me of that. He would say, if I was being impatient with him,
Yeah.
hey, but you're so patient. And
Yeah.
everybody says Miss Wendy is so patient.
Yeah.
My patience is
everyone.
now low. It's run out.
I've used it
And
all.
so I thought,
It's all
wow, I
it's all
should
gone.
probably save some patience for
There
my
you go.
husband.
Amen. Well, and with that, we'll tell you thanks everybody for being here. Thanks
Thanks
guys
for having
joining us. And thanks for watching everybody. And we hope you enjoyed Fight Club. And welcome to it.
Happy fighting!